This is the world as we know it. Continents, oceans, with borders drawn by history. But shift your gaze, look down from above. Here at the planet's crown lies the Arctic Ocean, a realm of ice and silence. Perched on the ocean's edge is Spitzbergen, the largest island in the Svalbard archipeligo. In 1905, an American entrepreneur named John Longyear saw an opportunity in this frozen frontier and founded a coal mining settlement, naming it Longyearbyen, Longyear City. With just over 1,000 permanent residents today, Longyearbyen is the world's northernmost town. Tourists come and go, but the spirit of frontier remains. From mid-April until late August, the sun never sets, and time stretches beneath the midnight sun. We travelled in July 2025, drawn by the promise of circumnavigating the archipelago's Arctic wilderness. This is where our story begins. Leaving Longyearbyen behind, we sail north to Ny-Ålesund, a place where science meets history. Once a coal mining town, Ny-Ålesund is now the world's northernmost research station. Scientists from over 20 nations study the Arctic secrets, its climate, the Arctic waters, the atmosphere, and the elegant dance of the Northern Lights. This remote outpost is a living laboratory, a place where data is gathered not just for today, but for generations to come. Standing watch over the square is Roald Amundsen, the legendary polar explorer. In 1911, you will recall, he beat Robert Scott to the South Pole. 15 years later, from this very spot, he took off in an airship, becoming the first to both see and fly over the North Pole. The mooring mast still stands, a silent witness to one of exploration's boldest chapters. Svalbard's recorded history begins as early as 1596, when Dutch explorers, among them William Barents, charted these icy shores. Sadly, Barents never made it home, but those who followed returned with tales of abundance. Bowhead whales once filled the fjords, and their presence sparked a frenzy. By the early 1600s, whalers from Britain, Denmark, Germany and France and beyond descended on these waters. Bold and intrepid, and driven by profit, they carved out a brutal living. In just 30 years, the bowhead whale was hunted to the brink of extinction. And even now, 3 centuries later, the population has yet to fully recover. On the beaches, bones lie untouched in grotesque piles. They endure as a vivid reminder of the time when the Arctic was in the vanguard of exploration and fortune. As the whales vanished from Svalbard's fjords, the world's appetite turned to another resource buried deep in the Arctic rock: coal. For over a century, the export of coal shaped life in Svalbard. But now, that chapter is closed. In July 2025, just 2 weeks before our arrival, the last mine ceased operations. Back in Longyearbyen, the final loads of coal were still being transported to the quay. A dusty end to a long legacy. Once, this dockside bustled with industry. Soon, it may echo with the footsteps of tourists. Science in the Arctic isn't confined to labs and distant institutions. Aboard MS Spitzbergen, our ship, it's part of the journey. Through a citizen science initiative, the crew and guests contribute to real-time research, recording sea temperatures at varying depths, measuring the water clarity, and sampling the environmental DNA.
And while we're on the way, I would like you to have a little bit of a think and think about what kind of parameters or things come in mind.
Environmental DNA traces all life suspended in the water and offers a glimpse into the hidden biodiversity of the Arctic seas.
Blooms might be earlier.
We joined one of the science boat outings. No white coats, just curiosity, collaboration, and a shared sense of purpose. The Arctic may be treeless, but it is far from barren. Unlike Antarctica's stark emptiness, Svalbard's tundra blooms in miniature, discreet and beautiful. And in the brief summer, tiny flowers burst forth. Mosses, lichens, and cushion plants form a living tapestry stitched into the soil. Each bloom is a triumph, a signal that even in the harshest conditions, life finds a way. This fragile vegetation feeds the Arctic's herbivores, with reindeer grazing on sedges and grasses, a chain of life sustained by the smallest of things. At sea we're surrounded by life. Puffins darted like arrows, guillemots and kittiwakes wheeled overhead, and fulmars skimmed the waves with effortless grace. On land, snow buntings, the only bird in the Arctic that sings, flitted between the rocks, giving themselves away with their song, and Arctic skuas patrolled the tundra. It's not unusual to find a colony of walrus basking on a shoreline, tactile, sociable and unhurried. Their presence was both majestic and comic. But one creature that draws visitors here more than any other is the polar bear. Our ship was anchored a mile off the remote island of Kvitora. Through our binoculars we spotted not one, but 6 polar bears, pale figures on the rocky shore. Despite the distance, they were unmistakable. Through the ship's powerful camera, we watched as one lifted its head, caught our scent, and stepped into the water. From this great distance we watched as the bear swam out to us, a story to carry home. For over a century, the Arctic was a hunting ground, not for sport, but for survival, profit, and fur. Polar bears were hunted relentlessly. At its peak, up to 300 were taken each year. The white winter coats of the Arctic fox were also highly valued, seen here in their summer coats. Scattered across the islands are the trapper huts, weathered now, but one can imagine the scene as the islands iced in. Each one a relic of the trappers who overwintered here, chasing pelts through the months of darkness and isolation. Theirs was a life of solitude, of danger and grit. Today, the huts remain untouched, monuments of the ethics of the time that were shaped by economics and not ecology. A reminder of when the Arctic was a frontier and its greatest predator was man. After Antarctica and Greenland, Nordislandet, Svalbard's northeast island, sits the largest ice sheet, a frozen fortress towering above the sea. But the Arctic is changing. Svalbard, once cloaked in ice, now reveals bare rock and dark moraine, glacial debris left behind as the ice retreats. Throughout our journey, when we were ashore, we scrambled on the rubble, a silent witness to a warming world. Each ridge, each scar, a line in the story of glacial loss. If that weren't evidence enough, consider this. Our ship had to travel further north than any other passenger vessel in history before we reached the ice edge. We finally found it at over 82 degrees north. The Arctic Ocean we crossed to find it, now open water, was once locked in ice. And as the sea ice thins, one question lingers. How long before a ship like ours is able to sail all the way to the North Pole? The Arctic is no longer a frozen constant. At the top of the world, the future is melting into view.